that a U.S. government insider just stole millions of dollars from the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Absolutely crazy story. We're going to cover this in a moment, but it's also interesting that over the same weekend, we got some new comments from Scotty Bessent regarding gold and Bitcoin. And I think combining them in the conversation on the stage that he did, I think there's a signal here. So let's play the clip. We will chat about it and we'll be right back. Okay. So on the surface, obviously, I will kind of maybe mind read a little bit on this clip here, but obviously surface level, just the basic conversation of Scotty Bessent. What's it? Secretary Treasury?
Scotty B, Big B.
Yo, pause. That's the fact. This man in the position that he's in, talking about gold as a store of value, historical store of value. And if you're watching it over the weekend, it finally broke $5,000 per ounce. I think it's at like 5,100 right now. Also, silver still running. Anyways, connecting Bitcoin with gold as a store of value, essentially saying that Bitcoin is becoming a store of value. As we've been talking about, this conversation is evolving. Everyone is kind of waking up to this idea of Bitcoin as a store of value. Remember, it's only 17 years old. I know a lot of people out there are wondering right now. It's like, look, gold and silver are running. When is it Bitcoin's term? Or did Bitcoin fail as a risk-off asset here? I know these conversations are going on right now, but I just think it's still a little early. People are so comfortable with gold and silver that they're first going to move into those and then eventually go down the risk asset curve and go into Bitcoin. Now, I think the deeper, like I said, mind reading conversation here is when he's talking about onshoring gold from London, obviously also talking about China adding to their gold reserves. What we are seeing right now is literally the beginning, in my opinion, of no confidence in fiat. The dollar is probably going to be around for a while, but I think fiat right now is having its moment that Bitcoiners have been talking about for a long time, that you need to go into a hard asset. It is a hard asset hard money game right now. And I think the fact that we're seeing the central banks acquire more gold than U.S. Treasuries for the first time in a long time with this recent gold rise, you're seeing that the value of gold currently held by central banks it's going parabolic in comparison to the amount of treasuries that they're holding. And that doesn't even account for what we're potentially seeing on the horizon with Japan. It looks like they might have a Japan intervention on the yen, which, as you guys know, the yen carry trade is unwinding right now, which Japan holds about $1 trillion in U.S. Treasuries. So if they're trying to onshore their capital markets, it seems like they are probably going to sell treasuries, which means we are in the midst of, I don't want to say the collapse of fiat currencies, but we are in a moment right now where trust in the institutions are at all-time lows. You're seeing this with the bid on gold, with the bid on silver. I think soon enough we will see the run-up on Bitcoin as well. And that's my initial take here. So, Nico, let's talk about this here, the Scotty Bessent clip, and then I'm going to get into the crazy story about the strategic Bitcoin reserve right now. But again, connecting all these stories happening right now around the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Obviously, Scott Bessent didn't say anything in particular about adding more Bitcoin to the strategic Bitcoin reserve in this clip. But as you can tell, they are laying the groundwork for this idea that Bitcoin is a store of value. Yes, it hasn't had its parabolic moment yet, but I think it's only a matter of time. Anyways, Nico, what's your thoughts on Scotty Bessent?
Big B, Scotty B in the paint, bro. In the paint. Opti's a huge fan of Scotty B.
You're a huge fan.
Huge fan. Dude, I mean, listen, like what's going on with gold and what's going on with silver is a vote of no confidence against fiat currencies. Like, I mean, these assets, these commodities, whatever you want to call it, literally went sideways for like 20 years, right? And all of a sudden, you know, when things start getting shooken up a little bit, and I do want to ask you about that awesome episode that you had with Tom Luongo. I'm sure he talked a lot about this. And by the way, we got a special guest for you guys tomorrow. You guys are going to want to tune into tomorrow's episode.
You've been asking for it. We'll say
you
that.
guys have been asking for it, so we got him to come on the show. We're very thankful for that. But so the point I'm trying to make is this is a vote of no confidence on fiat currencies
by the central bankers themselves.
And they're basically hedging, and Bitcoin, gold and silver is going parabolic because of that. I mean, I was taking a look at like the charts of silver before we went on air, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that during the news segment. We got a special guest coming on today's show. We got Walker America joining us a little bit later in about 30 minutes or so. But yeah, man, I mean, that's what I'm seeing, dude. That's what I'm seeing. And I know that Tom Luongo has this whole theory, has this whole thesis that all of this is on purpose to get power away from the city of London, because the city of London is essentially like the epicenter, the capital of global finance. And the Trump administration really has this goal of getting that power back into the United States. So a lot of the reason as to why this gold and silver is ripping is because a lot of it is being redeemed, right? So yeah, I mean, this is crazy, uncharted territory. Now, I think the question on everybody's mind is, okay, big but, is this going to translate eventually to Bitcoin pumping, right? Because I think you mentioned this earlier, right? You know, as it stands right now, Bitcoin is down 8%, and both silver and gold are performing, amazing, right? And the theory is that Bitcoin is a superior asset to gold. It's not a theory. The characteristics are there: absolute scarcity, censorship resistance, the fact that you can send it anywhere around the world for pennies on the dollar. Like, the characteristics are there. But, you know, even though all the characteristics are there, at the end of the day, the markets are what tell the truth. And I think that's the question on everybody's mind. Is Bitcoin going to follow in the footsteps of silver and gold once they finish, going through this historical rip? And for anyone who's talking about diminishing returns and all that narrative around Bitcoin, I mean, you guys have to understand the size of the asset that is gold, and the fact that it literally hockey sticked like a meme coin to the moon. Like, silver behaved like a meme coin, right? And this is a multi-trillion-dollar asset. So if silver and gold could do it, Bitcoin could definitely do it. I have no doubt in my mind. And by the way, the market cap of gold just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Before, when we started reporting it, we said for Bitcoin to reach the market cap of gold, that would mean $1 million Bitcoin. That's changed, ladies and gentlemen. For Bitcoin to reach the market cap of gold, that would mean $1.7 million Bitcoin. Gold is now a $35 trillion asset, right? And our theory, our core thesis as Bitcoin, is that the minimum for Bitcoin to succeed is to at least reach the market cap of gold. So, I mean, what is that? A 17x at this point? A 17x just to reach the market cap of gold. Kathy Wood, breaking. We're going to be talking about that during the numbers. She's talking about, she's still feeling bullish. She's talking about $800,000 Bitcoin by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, that's 4 years away. 8x in 4 years.
Bearish.
At the end of the day, we shall see. We'll see if Kathy's right, but I'm going to pass it back on to Opti with a question. And my question's a very simple one, a very strategic one, a very targeted one. What did Tom Luongo say about all this stuff? Because he's been ahead of the curve. Like, he's been talking about this stuff for years now. What did you guys bring up when you guys had him on the show?
Yeah, so I think what we're seeing right now in silver, and this is essentially what Tom Luongo was saying, is that, remember, as the Tom Luongo thesis goes, the city of London is where the financial power rests, because they used to be the empire. And remember, the sterling pound used to be backed by a pound of silver. And so now they're essentially calling the bluff on the city of London. And I think this is what we're seeing, is this is why we're seeing the price start to rip, is because people are trying to get get silver out of out of the vaults, bring them on shore, get them out of London, bring it to America. And so connecting these two things, what I think is happening, and I think what we're seeing is essentially what the chat is saying. Like, we are seeing, and it might be too early to call the death of fiat. I don't think necessarily like the dollar's over. I think the dollar will be around with us for a long time. But I think we're starting to see people lose faith in that system. And what is the most interesting aspect of this isn't gold and silver, as much as we'd like to say, it isn't being pushed this high because of retail. This is institutional central bank bidding on precious metals right now. And so Nico asked, do I think that it's going to happen to Bitcoin eventually? Of course I do. It's just right now what we're seeing is the institutions are trying to get as much gold and silver as they can right now because they are uncertain about treasuries. They're uncertain about their own debt right now. They're uncertain about the fiat system. And this is why you're seeing precious metals run the way they are. So that's kind of like the very, very short layman view of this. If you really want to hear Tom Long, go watch the episode. It was on Thursday. But anyways, enough of this. Let's go into the second news story surrounding the strategic Bitcoin reserve. And this, guys, this is this one gets pretty funny. I can't play some of the clips for you, but it's one of those moments where if you're not laughing, you might be crying. So here is the initial story here. It was broken by Zach XBT on Twitter. Very good Twitter account. And he goes, meet the threat actor John, a.k.a. Lick, who was caught flexing $23 million in a wallet address directly tied to 90 million plus in suspected thefts from the U.S. government in 2024 and multiple other unidentified victims from November 2025 to December 2025. So here's screenshots. You know, it's some ETH holdings, it's some Tron holdings, but this is where the story gets even crazier. And this is where the speculations on what is actually happening with the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Remember, we were supposed to have an audit on the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Allegedly, we added 120K plus coins. The US supposedly holds around 328,000 coins. It's been a trust us, bro, and we haven't been able to fully verify this.
So that was my theory from last week.
Well, Standard Alumnus also said this a while ago.
Dude,
not necessarily was stolen, but they're selling.
I got to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, brother, because we did tomorrow's Bitcoin news today. We did call this 100%. We said, don't trust me, bro. Like, it's time to publicly release the balance like El Salvador does, right? That's the only way you're going to be held accountable. You're going to have transparency with your citizens. Dude, the fact that, you know, and this guy's
wait. Let me fill out the whole story here. Yeah, Nico's jumping the gun here. So here we go. Zach XBT follows this up, and he goes, in case you're curious how John DeGita, aka Lick, was able to steal $40 million from the U.S. government seized addresses, John's dad owned CMDSS, which currently has an active IT government contract in Virginia, and CMMDS was awarded a contract to assist the U.S. state marshals in managing / disposing of seized / forfeited crypto assets. It still remains unclear at this point how John obtained access from his dad. And, you know, going further, apparently the CMDSS company account on Twitter, their website, and LinkedIn were all just deactivated after this post was broken on Twitter. And here's where the Twitter funnies come around. This guy goes, wait, hold up. LMAO. So his dad manages liquidation of stolen assets from the U.S. government, and this kid steals those stolen assets from his dad, and he only got caught because he just had to flex it to some other anon criminals in a demeasuring contest. Holy crap. And Zach XBT goes, yes, exactly. Now this one's even crazier. I was laughing playing the video. I can't play the videos for you guys on YouTube. We can't play this on the show, but if you're interested in this, there are receipts on this.
Why can't we play the videos?
Because he's just cussing. He's like wigger maxing on it. But anyways, here is the other tweet, and he goes, imagine getting your dad arrested and put away for decades on federal charges because you couldn't handle some losers on the internet calling you poor. Zach XBT, strong contender for worst son of the decade. So catching up on this, you know, the short of it, A U.S. government contractor's son allegedly stole $40 million from the wallets his father's company was hired to protect with the U.S. State Marshal Service on these seized asset foreclosures in crypto. A competitor had warned about conflicts of interest. The government awarded the contract anyway. CMDSS has now deleted all social media and scrubbed their websites. Again, David Bailey remarks on this. He goes, the son of the CEO of the company hired by the U.S. Marshals to safeguard the nation's Bitcoin stole $40 million from it and now appears to be on the run. Treasury must secure the private keys from the Justice Department ASAP before more is stolen. And he goes, frankly, unbelievable and embarrassing. U.S. Marshals would be better off hiring Mark Karpeles at this point. If you don't know who Mark is, that's the Mt. Gox CEO who people say allegedly ran away with all of the Bitcoin at Mt. Gox. So at this point, we have no clue what's going on with the strategic Bitcoin reserve. It looks like 40 million are gone. We have rumors and speculations that more Bitcoin has been sold. On paper, in theory, allegedly, the U.S. government holds 328,000+ coins. At this point, I think it's very fair and safe to say that they probably hold less than they are marketing. And maybe this is why we haven't heard anything from the strategic Bitcoin reserve, because maybe they found out that they have a lot less Bitcoin that has been marketed.
Listen, I know for a fact they hold less Bitcoin. Not for a fact, okay? But listen, guys, we have a pretty effing good track record, okay? We have a pretty good track record. If you guys have been Simply Bitcoin viewers for years now, you guys know that usually the stuff that me and Opti, even though we're like cracking jokes and having a good time on this show,
even though we talk like bros,
we talk like bros, we are bros. Even though the stuff that we talk about on this show might seem like a little bit of entertainment, whatnot, this and this and that, we usually end up being vindicated, 3 to 6 months later. Like literally, I'm not even kidding. When it started to happen to us like a couple years ago, it was hilarious because we were still doing the show with the green screen. And then me and Opti were on a phone call and we were like, dude, I think we're journalists, bro. I think we're journalists, dude, because like we couldn't figure it out. Like we couldn't surmise it as like self-taught YouTubers, like telling you guys the news could be more accurate than legacy media. And then it became incredibly obvious. And now, I wear it proudly. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm some type of new age Bitcoin journalist, YouTuber, content creator. I don't even know how to define it. I don't even think
we're real life news aggregators.
I don't even know if there is a definition for it, nor is a definition necessary, but that's besides the point. The point is that, listen, we know that the Biden administration, when they knew that Trump won the election, so the couple months in the transition, we know for a fact that they were selling Bitcoin. The news the other day from the Samurai wallet seizure, what happened? Breaking news, the DOJ was selling Bitcoin even though there is an executive order explicitly forbidding the U.S. government from selling Bitcoin. And now, basically, what is it? The Marshals or the Justice Department?
I think
U.S. Marshals or the Justice Department?
Yeah, it's U.S. Marshals.
So now the U.S. Marshals hired this company to like custody the Bitcoin. It's really not that complicated. Send it to BitGo, right? Send it to Coinbase. It's not rocket science, okay? I understand if the U.S. government doesn't want to learn how to take self-custody themselves. I understand that. It's possible. I mean, if El Salvador could do it, the U.S. government could do it. I mean, we did literally kidnap the sitting president of a country within 2 hours, like zero dark arepa style. Like, so it's not too far of a stretch, right? So the point I'm trying to make is this on purpose? Is this on purpose? And I would like to say, I think it might be. I think there's a lot of people in the administrative state, the unelected bureaucracy that remains empowered regardless of who gets elected into office, that doesn't want Bitcoin to succeed. I think they want central banks. I think they want the continuation of the central banking system It's what finances them. It's what gives them power. It's their source of power. So I don't think it's in their best interest for Bitcoin to succeed. And I honestly think that you guys want to know why all the momentum got pulled from the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Initiative, why Bo Hines resigns, why Senator Lummis is not running for re-election. It's that. They ran into this huge bureaucratic wall, this immovable wall. And they're like, you know what? That's nice, but I'm going to make a whole lot more money and I'm going to live a lot longer and I'm going to have a lot less stress. And and my life isn't going to be in danger if I just go, get a very nice job in the private sector, right? That's what I think. That's honestly what I think, man. Like, I think that there's this giant bureaucratic, web that you need to untangle in order for this strategic Bitcoin reserve to happen. And, you're seeing signs of that. There's 3 signs. There's 3 signs that are confirmed, right? They're confirmed. No, 4 signs. Let me lay them out to you. Sign number 1. Donald Trump, when he got inaugurated, part of his first initial executive orders was for all of the federal government to basically report how much Bitcoin the U.S. government has. We still don't know. It's been more than a year. Sign number 2. Supposedly, the U.S. government was not supposed to sell any of their Bitcoin. When the Samurai wallet Bitcoin got seized, guess what was reported? That Bitcoin was sold. They tried to walk it back with the media. I'm sorry, I don't believe them. Why don't I believe them? Well, this is a great example, right? You have literally this kid flexing on Discord, basically because he's upset and his ego is hurt because some dude called him poor. And he's like, I'm not poor. Look at this $40 million worth of Bitcoin that I stole from the U.S. government using daddy's money and daddy's access. Like, I'm sorry. Like, look, you can't tell me that they're incompetent. They literally kidnapped a president in 2 hours, right? So you can't tell me they're incompetent. You can't tell me that they don't know about the daycare centers. You can't tell me that they don't know that, they ran out Elon out of Washington with the whole Doge thing because they wanted to. I think this is just convenient to them. That's what I believe. And then the last thing that I'll say is, guess what happened? The Genius Act got passed real quick. Why? Because it perpetuates the US dollar. I like it. I'm a fan of stable coins. I like what Tether is doing for the rest of the world, the opportunities that it gives people living in the global south. But again, it benefits the U.S. government. Look at the Clarity Act. The Clarity Act is literally reached a standstill. They keep saying, oh, it's going to get passed. Oh, it's going to get passed. Oh, it's going to get passed. We're almost in February, and this thing has still not passed. And the first draft that was proposed was basically this Frankenstein creature of a bill that essentially protected big banks more than it protected Bitcoiners, right? Because it was supposed to protect the right to self-custody. It was supposed to provide all this regulatory clarity so that Bitcoin entrepreneurs and businesses could operate with clarity and not fear that they're going to be persecuted in a couple years. That was the whole point of the bill. That bill has not been passed, right? So again, I don't have a smoking gun yet, but if you put all of these things together, it paints a very, very big it paints a very clear picture to me, dude. It really, really, really does. So I don't know if you want to add to that, Opti. Maybe I'm black-pilled at this point. I don't know. What do you think, bro?
I generally agree with everything you said. I would say you are kind of black-pilled now. I think chat. I think Nico's having a hard time realizing that just voting isn't going to fix it.
I think voting.
No, but hold on. Let's not open that can of worms. To your point, though, I think where we are currently, I do want to kind of. I'm having a hard time framing it, but I do, without you guys saying like, oh, he's a Trump shill. You guys know I've been very critical on Trump. I say when he does some good things. I'm big, extremely critical of politics in general. But I think one thing that I've been trying to figure out how to say correctly is that when it comes to Bitcoin, I think Trump and the Trump administration had a very good idea. I think it was a good idea. I think this movement is a good idea to go Bitcoin superpower of the world. Now, as we see, as we've seen, as we probably will continue to see, it's probably like a little, what's it like, not enough action to it. So it's like, it might just have to be that the next president, you know, follows what Trump was saying, because I think it's a good idea to be the Bitcoin superpower of the world. It just seems like there, as Nico likes to say, the bureaucratic state, you know, whatever, there's a lot of hurdles. There's still a lot of backlash. There's still a lot of negativity around Bitcoin. And so, you know, I don't believe in the idea that like Trump's the savior here, but I think the Bitcoin idea coming from the US president is a good idea. And then, you know, following from here, it's like we'll have to take the baton from here, and we'll have to actually actualize what happened. I know I saw that.
We need Maduro on the Joe Rogan pod. He would crush it, though. That's the thing. I don't like Maduro. I think what he did to the Venezuela was horrible and stuff, but the guy is charismatic. Anyhow, guys, it's going to be an incredible show. We got Walker joining us in about 15 minutes or so. And then we might have a special surprise towards the end. You guys are going to want to stay tuned. This is the Monday show. So if you guys are enjoying it, make sure to smash that like button. Give us a follow on whatever platform you're watching us on Rumble, on YouTube, on X. Smash the like button. Share today's video. Let's get into today's show. We're going to be right back in just a little bit. Here we go. Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody, go to stampseed.com today. This is their 12-word seed plate. It just was released. They have a 24-word seed plate. Buy the whole kit. Comes with the hammer, the letter stamping tools, the anvil, bam, bing, bam, boom. You can stamp your seed phrase into a plate of titanium, which is going to survive the test of time. We literally sent this to outer space. It came back into the atmosphere with fire. And check this out. It's perfectly in pristine condition. I'm just kidding. That never happened. But I'm sure it could potentially happen because it's made out of titanium, and I heard spacecrafts are made of titanium. Anyways, it's really strong. I'm not kidding. This is the way that you should stamp your seed into titanium. Head over to stampseed.com today. Use promo code SIMPLY. Get 15% off anything on the store. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $87,900 sats per dollar, 1,137. Block height 933,878. Realized monetary inflation 0.83%. Market cap 1.76 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap. We still got a long ways to go, ladies.
Remember when we had almost 10%?
Exactly. It's gone backwards, but that's good because when Bitcoin reaches the market cap of gold, that's $1.7 million per coin. Percentage issued 95.14% in the grand scheme of things. We are just getting the party started. In other news, strategy, once again, buying the dip. I want to talk about something that I talked about with a good buddy of mine, the co-founder of Ledin, our boy Mauricio. I had brunch with him yesterday, and he had a very interesting take on this. He was like, look, Nico, I think some of the Bitcoin gains that would have potentially happened this cycle actually went into the treasury companies. So like retail didn't buy spot Bitcoin. What they did was they bought the treasury companies to get exposure instead. And it was interesting because he said, look, when these treasury companies had 3 MNAV, 4 MNAV, 5 MNAV, that basically means that if they just would have bought spot Bitcoin, they would have gotten 3 to 5 times as much Bitcoin than if they would have bought MicroStrategy when it was at 3, when it was at 5 MNAV. And that, bro, like that stuck out to me because he was like, it's just like we didn't have a euphoric top. That was like part of the conversation. That was part of the conversation that we were having at brunch. And he was like, we did have a euphoric top, but it happened in the treasury companies. And that is so true. MicroStrategy had a classic blow off top, right? And it 30x, ladies and gentlemen. It went from $13 and I think it peaked at what? Like $5.50 or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Anyways,
$5.40 or something.
So let's check out the latest news. Strategy adds 2,932 Bitcoin to reach 712,647 Bitcoin total holdings. Strategy, the Bitcoin treasury company, formerly MicroStrategy, bought 2,932 Bitcoin from January 20th to January 25th for $264 million. What's a couple $100 million amongst friends? At about $90,000 per coin. This brings their total to 712,647 BTC, acquired at an average of $76,000. Now worth for 54 billion, now worth 62 billion at around $87,000 each, funded mainly through stock sales. The purchase outpaces 2026 Bitcoin mining so far. I think if you were to highlight any part of this, it's that. The amount of Bitcoin that's being bought, unlike gold, is outpacing the amount of Bitcoin that is getting released on the market by Bitcoin mining. It's just a matter of time before the market realizes and comes to the understanding that Bitcoin has absolute scarcity. And when that eventuality happens, I think that's when you're going to see these epic run-ups. Drawing cheers from enthusiasts like Michael Saylor is unstoppable. While critics like Peter Schiff note rising costs amid price pressures on FTR shares. Anyways, we got a legend in the house. We got the one, the only Walker America joining us. Walker, welcome to the show, brother.
Just bringing me right on up like that. Wow, I didn't even have time to prepare, but hey, it's good to be here, guys.
Well, happy, dude. I'm super stoked for you to join us, man, and just putting you right into the fire, dude.
I love it. I love it. I didn't even get to be in the frying pan, just straight on into the fire.
Just straight, bro. Just straight. Just straight into the pan, into the grill. Anyways, Walker, I had an interesting conversation. You know, Mauricio, you guys are friends. From
love
Led.
it, dude.
So we were talking yesterday, and he was basically making the theory that, hey, we did have a blow off top, but it happened through the treasury companies. It didn't happen through Bitcoin. So retail actually was buying the treasury companies versus buying spot Bitcoin. But he made a really good point. He said, if they would have just bought spot Bitcoin when these treasury companies were trading at 5 MNAV, 3 MNAV, 7 MNAV, they would literally have 7, 5, 3 times as much Bitcoin today if they just bought spot Bitcoin rather than these, you know, in hindsight's 2020, rather than these overpriced treasury companies. What's your take on that? That was the first time I've ever heard that theory. And it's a pretty good theory, man, because you did have a classic blow off top on MicroStrategy. And what is MicroStrategy but not a representation of the Bitcoin price, just in a levered fashion? I want to get your take.
I think that's a really good point by Mauricio. I always love picking his brain on these things too. And I think that that's an important thing, right? And this is a good lesson for all of us. Now, full disclosure, I dabble in some Bitcoin treasury companies, right? Like I bought a little bit of MicroStrategy when they first announced their Bitcoin strategy, because I was like, this is awesome. You know, you'd love to see this. Now, again, this is all with money I am prepared to lose, right? I put money in Bitcoin that I don't want to lose, money that I want to actually save for the long term. And I encourage everyone else to do the same. This is not financial advice. This is monetary advice. You know, Bitcoin is money, not finance, right? But my point here is that, yeah, people dabbled in these. And I think Mauricio's point is really solid in that so much of that, you know, retail wave that everybody kept waiting for. Where's retail? The institutions are here. Where is retail? Well, a lot of that did probably just go into these treasury companies. Now, you know, again, hindsight's 2020. I think a lot of people were rightly skeptical at the start. I think that these treasury companies, now specifically MicroStrategy, has obviously a massive, massive lead on all these other companies. You guys touched on their recent purchase here just a few minutes ago. They're over 700,000 Bitcoin now. They're going to hit 1 million Bitcoin, you know, probably within the next couple of years, maybe the next couple of months. I don't know. It depends how much capital Saylor can raise, right? But the point here, I think, is a good one. And that it's that Bitcoin is this savings tool, right? Bitcoin is how you save your money and grow your wealth over time. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, right? It's not going to, you know, get you a Lambo and a private jet tomorrow. Like, and hopefully that's not even your goal, right? Your goal is to save money over the long term, to build wealth slowly, and to have your purchasing power increase. Everything else is speculation, right? Bitcoin isn't speculation, it's savings. Everything else is speculation. And also, everything else introduces a counterparty, right? Even gold, even silver. Because unless you're buying physical gold or silver, in which case you're going to have problems actually selling it at the spot price later on. That's a different story. But even if you're buying precious metals, typically you're getting exposure through a counterparty. All of these treasury companies, they are securities, right? It is, by definition, counterparty, right? So again, I think it just really draws a key line in the sand that says, look, Bitcoin is how you save. Everything else is speculation. Yes, Pleb Slop 101 to whoever just commented that. That is hilarious and very much true. But this is why Pleb Slop is useful, right? Because apparently we have to drill these things into people's heads over and over and over again. We have to say, don't get involved in, quote, crypto, right? It's all just a giant scam. It's a rug pull. I'm not conflating treasury companies and crypto. I think treasury companies are a good idea. And I think they're also a natural progression. Of course, you're going to have treasury companies. Of course, you're going to have nation state adoption. Of course, you're going to have pension plans and unions and everything in between buying Bitcoin. Why? Because Bitcoin is winning. This is what Bitcoin winning looks like. May not feel that way right now in the price as the gold bugs and the silver simps dance on Bitcoin's early grave, but this is where patience comes in. And it's a good reminder that Bitcoin is saving and everything else is speculating.
Amen to that. Man, I would watch, you know, if you guys are on YouTube a lot, there are these like 10-hour long live streams of just, you know, like lo-fi music. I would have a 10-hour loop of Walker's voice and ASMR in his podcast, and I think it would do super well. That's a great ASMR voice. I'm a huge fan. What do you think, Opti?
I think I need some voice lessons from Walker, because I'm like super nasally, so I need to get that low. Walker voice here, and I think we'd have more fans. But anyways. So I've been saying something very similar, Nico, on this idea of I think the blow off top happened in the Bitcoin treasuries. And if you're looking at a lot of these stock prices, it looks very obvious. I really don't even understand the MNAV stuff, but I'll take Mauricio's word on they could have bought more Bitcoin. So I've been saying it about I think the blow off top was in the treasuries, and hence that's why I don't think we're going to see such a drastic kind of bear market in Bitcoin. But the MNAV stuff is above my pay grade. I'll tell you that much.
The MNAV is a pretty simple concept. It just basically represents the amount. If you add all the Bitcoin together of that, the Bitcoin together that company holds, what is the total value of that Bitcoin? And basically,
okay.
The stock, if you kind of add together the market,
that's like
cap,
the Bitcoin per share metric.
Yes. Something,
okay.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So if the MNAV is at 3x MNAV, that basically means the company's valuation, the market cap of that company, is worth 3 times as the amount of Bitcoin that they hold on their balance sheet. Right. That's why all the MNAVs are getting closer to 1, or some of them are even below 1.
Okay. So one's like parity, like 1 to 1.
How it should be,
okay.
Theoretically. But over the summer, we had some wild days where you had Metaplanet that was at 8 MNAV, right? Which at the time that was a great buy, because that would basically mean that, look, if you put 1 Bitcoin in there, theoretically you can get 8 Bitcoin out. Right? Theoretically, it's not that simple. I'm simplifying it for you guys, but it's not that simple. Walker did mention silver and gold. I do want to talk about that, because silver and gold have been going on an absolute tear. And these are commodities that have astronomically huge market caps. Gold's market cap is now $35 trillion, and it's literally going parabolic. Silver behaving like a meme coin. It's literally going parabolic as well, while Bitcoin is down 8% to the year. So we're going to be talking about all of that right after the break. We're going to be right back in just a second. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones? They don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's bitkey.world with the code SIMPLY. All right, everybody. Guys, go to bitkey.world today. Get yourself a Bitkey hardware wallet. It's one of literally the easiest hardware wallets to use on the market right now. It has multi-sig built in. It has inheritance built in. Go scan the QR code on your screen. You get 20% off if you use the code SIMPLY. Not your keys, not your cheese. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin. All right, everybody, let's go back to today's topic. Guys, Walker and I, we were discussing off of air. We've both decided to rebrand our shows and podcasts. Walker's officially announcing tomorrow that his show is going to be called The Silver Podcast, and Simply Bitcoin is going to be renaming itself Simply Silver. So we're going to be announcing Silver Opti.
Simply Silver, OptiBet Silver.
Those are terrible names. Those are terrible names.
I like names. Simply Silver. It's got a better ring to it.
So
it does.
Simply
really
Silver and the Simply Podcast. I mean, the Silver Podcast. This is confusing. There's so many S's. The Silver Podcast. We're going to be making the mutual announcement tomorrow. Walker and I will possibly get disowned by the community. But
yeah. Nico was telling me this morning he's going to sell all his Bitcoin, buy the silver top.
But we're doing this. Not for ideological reasons. We're doing this purely for the money. Just a joke. Just a joke. It's a joke. We're not renaming your podcast, but let's talk about how absolutely wrecked we are. And this is the year. This is Peter Schiff's vindication year. He got 1 year out of 17. Not bad. Okay. You know, a clock is, what is it? A broken clock is right twice a day, something like that. I don't know what the saying is. But anyways, let's check out these numbers. Here is Jesse Myers, and he posts, since start of 2025, 11 months ago, silver is up 278%, gold up 93%, Bitcoin down 10%. Precious metal investors are dancing on Bitcoin's grave. That always ends well. Let's take a look at the numbers. So that's, say what you got to say. They've been on a tear. Silver is currently at $112. It's just pretty crazy. And in 2020, it was at $16. It's almost a 10x, dude. That's wild over the last 5 years. And gold, again, this is a massive massive asset. It's just ripping as well. So absolutely crazy. And but I'm still not bearish because we got the one and only Cathie Wood. And she still believes that Bitcoin's gonna hit $800,000 per coin by 2030. I'm gonna play the clip, and then we're gonna have a discussion about our rebrands. We're gonna be right back in just a sec.
We are in it to win it, absolutely. So ARKB, right, is our spot Bitcoin ETF, as we assess the ecosystem right now, what we've undergone in the last 2 to 3 months are the reverberations after 10/10. So 10/10, October 10th, was what in the crypto world, I'm not sure if it's mentioned this more broadly, is the flash crash associated with a software glitch on Binance that deleveraged the system, and to the tune of $28 billion. There are a lot of people hurt. And we think that unwind, and often when you go through an unwind, Bitcoin's going to be hit the hardest because it's the most liquid crypto asset. We think that unwind is pretty much behind us. So now the only thing I think investors are worried about, especially institutional investors who understand that they must examine this as a new asset class, the leader in a new asset class, very low correlation with other asset classes. And so they're looking at what's called the 4-year cycle. And we have been down. And the question is the 4-year cycle, the downside of it, over? Right. We think it's pretty much pushed through. Maybe we flatten out here in the 80 to 90,000 range, base here for a while, but we think we'll be on our way soon.
So that was the past. The future is silver. And I want to talk to Walker about that. No, Walker, look, Cathie Wood's still incredibly bullish. She's calling $800,000 Bitcoin by 2030. That's an 8x from here, 4 years from now. That's an incredible return. I just don't see how that doesn't happen. When right when you were joining the show, one of the announcements that was made, I think it was like the AI that X has in terms of like just aggregating the news. But one of the things that stuck out to me was the fact that Michael Saylor by himself, like this isn't even taking into account any of the other treasury companies or any of the other institutions or sovereign wealth funds buying Bitcoin. Just Michael Saylor by himself is essentially buying all of the Bitcoin mining supply of 2026, right? So
Wild.
eventually we're going to reach a point where there's just not going to be enough supply for the amount of demand. And again, the halving is a couple years from now. And again, the amount of Bitcoin that's being mined, that's being dumped on the market every single day, it's going to be cut in half. And that is very unique about Bitcoin. Unlike silver and gold, right? The higher that gold goes, the higher that silver goes, the rate of silver mining increases and the rate of gold mining increases with it. It doesn't matter how high Bitcoin goes, the amount of Bitcoin that's actively being mined not only stays the same, but actively gets cut in half roughly every 4 years. Right. So if you just put these two together and then you put in the fact that, listen, the fact that these commodities with huge market caps are ripping like meme coins, like in terms of their volatility, tells me that whole diminishing return narrative, or the fact that no, Bitcoin can't go parabolic, I call that a crock of shit, because that's what it is. Like the fact that silver, it only took 20 years, but the fact that silver ripped from what? It was like $15, $20, something around that range, like in 2020. And the fact that it's at $114 today, I mean, and the fact that Bitcoin is superior in every single way, I think it's just a matter of time before the market realizes this. It just surprises me that silver has ripped and gold has ripped the way it has, but Bitcoin has just been kind of going sideways. It hasn't really dumped. We haven't gone into a bear market, but it's just been going in this kind of sideways price action. I want to get your take, Walker.
Okay, so 3 things on this. 1, I think that, okay, people need to understand these 3 things. And as I'm saying, drill these into your brain. First thing you need to understand is the whole narrative about diminishing returns with Bitcoin. Yeah, it kind of makes sense on its surface, but we've just seen that narrative completely destroyed because silver and gold have both just added trillions in market cap. Silver basically 3x its market cap. This is not some new meme coin that, some Donald Trump or Melania or maybe Barron now is pumping, right? This is silver. It's an old industrial metal. It used to be kind of an okay money like once, a few hundred years ago. Gold added like 17 trillion to its market cap in like the last little over a year. That's insane. You're telling me Bitcoin under a $2 trillion market cap right now can't 3x, 4x, 5x that market cap in the space of a few years? Okay. I mean, I think you're wrong. So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to keep buying Bitcoin. We'll see who's right. And the next thing is, and I want to drill this home as well, because you mentioned it and it's so important. When gold price goes up, they mine more gold. When silver price goes up, they mine more silver. When Bitcoin price goes up, nobody mines more Bitcoin. The same amount of Bitcoin is mined no matter what, even as demand increases, right? Okay, that's the second point. The third point here is that like you need to zoom out a little bit. Let the silver, the gold bugs and the silver simps have their day in the sun, right? They've been waiting decades for this. As their purchasing power has basically stayed stagnant, right? Or in silver's case, decreased. Gold's basically held purchasing power, not grown purchasing power in a long time, right? It's done a good job of holding its place there. They deserve that win. Let them have it. Let them dance on Bitcoin's grave, right? But when Bitcoin moves, it is going to move with a velocity and a ferocity that is going to literally melt faces, right? Most people are not going to be prepared for this, but if you are listening to this right now, you will be prepared. I hope. You've been watching Simply Bitcoin. You've been watching the Bitcoin podcast. You've been getting your 40 hours per week of Bitcoin podcast content. You've been ingesting all the pleb slop you can possibly muster, right? But you have been trying to create value and stack quietly, right? To grow a stack for yourself, for your family, for your future. You have watched these tourists panic sell at every dip. And you've also been, you know, as they panic sold, you doubled your DCA and you doubled down and you tried to buy the cheap corn off their hands, right? You have ignored all of the fear, all the uncertainty, all the doubt that's been foisted upon you by the crypto salesmen, the quantum fudders, and all the TardFi grifters, right? You have kept your conviction. You have kept buying, kept increasing your slice of the only completely finite pie in the history of our world. That's Bitcoin, right? So to all of you who are watching this out there right now, stay patient, right? Be patient. Your time is coming. We've been chop solidating, right? Around 100K or under 100K. It feels like forever. I haven't been in Bitcoin that long, right? But one thing that I have noticed is that right when Bitcoin starts to bore you to death, right when you think this must, you know, maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe I'm wrong, right when your conviction starts to shake, that seems to be the point where you're about to be proven that you were in fact right. That seems to be the point where all the people who were dancing on Bitcoin's grave saying, I told you so, the Peter Schiffs of the world out there, oh, well, look at this Bitcoin, you know, not store of value, ha, ha, ha. They all get really quiet for a little while. And then they start saying Bitcoin's a scam as it rips their faces off, right? But there are 21 million Bitcoin forever. That's it. MicroStrategy alone is on their way to accumulate over 1 million Bitcoin, right? None of us are going to get even close to that, but we can still get our slice, a meaningful slice of a truly finite asset, right? You need to remember that 21 million forever. That is it, right? We've repeated it over and over and over again. And I hope that people have listened. And if you have, and if you've been creating value, trying to create value for this world, use that value creation to stack sats, you are going to be okay. But I truly think that the move is coming. I don't know when. Bitcoin does most of its movement in like 5 to 10 days a year. That's like all of it. The rest of the time it just chop solidates or goes down. And then a few of those days a year, it absolutely melts people's faces off. But back to the original point, the whole diminishing returns thing, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. They will always keep printing money. We know this. There will always be more and more and more fiat. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. There will always be more and more crypto assets. There will always be more gold. NASA sent a probe out to Psyche 16 or whatever the name of that asteroid is that has enough gold on it to turn everyone on Earth into a gold billionaire, right? Gold and silver are scarce, but they're not finite, right? They are basically unlimited in terms of the universal scale, even in terms of our solar system, right? So the point here is, remember why you were here. Remember that you were here because at some point a switch flipped in your brain and you understood what Bitcoin was in some way. You understood that this is the one chance that us, especially in the younger generations, have to catch up to all of those boomers who bought their houses for 2 raspberries that are now worth $5 million and they're sitting on their 3rd vacation home in Naples, Florida, right? Telling you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? Bitcoin is how you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Bitcoin is the chance that you have while everyone else is panicking, while everyone else is chasing the shiny object in the room, either the literal shiny object in gold or silver, those nice shiny metals, or the figurative shiny object, AI stocks, quantum, whatever it is. Remember why you are here. Remember that Bitcoin is absolutely finite and there will never be another. That's it. That's what you need to remember. Drill that into your head, act with conviction, and stack as hard as you freaking can.
Amen to that. Walker America dropping bars in the house. So I guess we have canceled, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news. We have officially canceled the rebrands. We're not changing the name of our podcast, even though the gold podcast would sound pretty dope. It would sound pretty dope. And simply gold, it wouldn't sound as good, but anyways, maybe the total addressable market would be bigger. What do you think, Opti? What do you think about what Walker had to say?
I really like the raspberry line. You know, buy your $5 million house for 2 raspberries. Totally agree with that. No, it was a great rant. I totally agree with everything you said. I want to go into a little bit of what Kathy Wood was saying, because I've been saying for a while, I don't believe in diminishing returns. And I said this before we saw gold run, before we saw silver run. It just made no sense to me on a very simple kind of heuristic. It's like, there's not that many people buying Bitcoin. There's not that many people that use Bitcoin. And I forget what the metric is, what the number is, but, you know, estimates are somewhere between 3 and 5% of people globally use Bitcoin. I'm like, you think we're going to see diminishing returns when we still have like 95% of planet Earth to get on Bitcoin? It's just like, I think the S-curve adoption is what Bitcoin is going to do, like other technologies. So I never believed in the diminishing returns.
We got a new name, and I want to talk about the S-curve because it's a great
Simply
topic.
Raspberries.
Simply Raspberries. What do you think, Walker?
I do love the Raspberries.
The Raspberry Podcast.
I love the fruit. I love the fruit and the band.
The Raspberry Podcast. I would watch that podcast every day.
Okay. Anyway.
No, but let's talk about the
You
S-curve.
stop.
I
You
want to talk about the
quit
S-curve.
cutting me off. I got more to say here.
You're against Bitcoin.
Just stop, dude. All right. The other thing is I think Cathie Wood is bearish. I'm not gonna lie. I think 800K by 2030 is bearish, especially when you see what happened in gold and silver. I think we could see a 10x in a matter of a year, not necessarily 8x in 4 years. Like what we're seeing in gold and silver to me is like diminishing returns. The meme is over. We're going to see some gains. That's my thing.
Okay,
that's my view on it.
So before we move on to the next segment, we talk about the Bitcoin podcast and Walker, what Walker's doing. I do want to bring up this question for you guys, kind of a thought experiment. Opti, if you could pull this up, the S curve, pull up the adoption curve, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on Rumble, on YouTube, on X. Where are we on the S curve in terms of adoption? So the first part of the S curve is the innovators, right? There's the so-called Bitcoin OGs. The second part is the early adopters. And then there's the early majority, then there's the late majority, and then there's the laggards and blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of the question is like, where are we in Bitcoin's adoption curve? Opti, do you have it pulled up?
I'm pulling it up. I'm not getting good ones. They're too small. So give me 1 second.
So while Opti pulls it up, I want to pass it on to Walker. Walker, you've seen this. You know, it's made its rounds on Bitcoin Twitter 1,000 times.
There we go.
Right?
There we go. I got it.
Thank you, sir. Where are we on the infamous adoption curve? Are we in the innovators, the early adopters, the early majority? Where are we?
I think that if you go by the percentages of the S curve, we're actually still in the innovators. I know that people want to say,
Oh,
we're
wow.
in the early. Really, I mean, if you,
Bars.
2.5, like what is it, 2.5%, right, is what they say, or yeah, 2.5% is what the S curve says should be the early innovators. By that metric, that is 100% where we are at, right? We're also, not only from that, the perspective of adoption, but if you actually look at just total capitalization of all the like assets in the world, right? We're at a tiny, we're at like 0.2%, 0.25% maybe of all the assets in the world. There's like, you know, whatever, $1,000 trillion worth of assets in the world. Bitcoin's less than 2 trillion. So no, now we're at like 0.18% of the total assets in the world that is denominated in Bitcoin. Basically, that is nothing from an adoption standpoint. You're telling me that like if you go into a room of 100 random people, that like anywhere in the world, that more than 2.5 of those people, so like two, you know, you, me, and a midget, are going to have like have adopted Bitcoin? Like no, it's not the case. We are like still in the innovators phase, and that's why we're so early. But then, okay, I've answered the question, but I'm also going to reject the frame of it because I don't actually think that this applies to Bitcoin in the way that people think it is. This is like a technology adoption curve, right? It applies well to technology. You can look at Bitcoin as a technology, but we know that Bitcoin is so much more than just a technology. It's not an iPhone. It's not a microwave oven. It's not a dishwasher, right? It is something totally new. We don't know what it looks like when a technological money reprices the entire world. So we can put up these different graphs and everything, and they are somewhat illustrative. They're illustrative for showing how early we are. But what I don't think people realize is that the absolute, again, velocity of the takeoff that we're going to see, it's going to make the S curve look like just like this cute little chart that like my 2-year-old son could draw, right? Like kind of with some loopy lines. Like that's ultimately what it is. So if we're going by the S curve, we are still in the innovators phase by all metrics, right? It doesn't matter. You may say we have ETFs, we have Bitcoin treasury companies, some nation states are buying. It doesn't matter. Look at the numbers. We are still in the innovators phase, like really very early in it, right? And then if you want to, go the other way and reject the frame of it entirely, we don't actually know what this is going to look like. We don't know what it looks like when a completely novel form of money that is a one-off, right? Bitcoin is a 0 to 1 moment, right? There's before Bitcoin and there's after Bitcoin. We're only 17 years into this journey. We have no idea what this is going to look like. But I think we're all going to be kind of blown away. I think even the most bullish of us are going to be blown away because it is repricing the entire world in front of our eyes. The problem is People are just measuring with the wrong stick. They're measuring with the US dollar measuring stick usually, or the Canadian moose shekel, or the European compliance coin, or whatever, whatever they're measuring with. It's a bad measuring stick because it's always moving. People give Samson Moe a lot of grief for the whole Omega candle thing. Like, oh, where's the Omega candle now? Well, you know what? They just had multiple Omega candles in the Iranian rial, right? It just went up to 1 point, like the US dollar had an Omega candle in the Iranian rial, right? Bitcoin had like a Deca Omega candle in it, right? This is what happens as fiat currencies fail, which they all do. They always will fail, because when a centralized group of unelected banker bureaucrats has the power of the printer, they will always print. They have that big red button, right? They will always print more money. They cannot help themselves because they have to keep kicking the can down the road. And the more they print, the more they dilute their own power, as they steal from all of us through the silent tax of inflation, but they also weaken themselves in the long run. The problem is that because technology is so hyper deflationary, TVs since the year 2000 have gotten like over 98% cheaper in 26 years. TVs have gotten over 98% cheaper. Everything should be getting that much cheaper, but it isn't. Everything's getting more expensive forever because they are printing money faster than the rate of deflation. They have to print so much money to do that, and they must keep doing it, because if technology is allowed to bring down the prices of everything, which it naturally should, read Jeff Booth's The Price of Tomorrow if you're confused about this, watch any of the many podcast appearances he's done on Simply Bitcoin, on the Bitcoin podcast, on any podcast, you will understand this. Everything should be getting cheaper forever, but it isn't, because they are stealing from us by printing away the gains that technology should naturally be bringing to us in the form of our money buying more. But instead, our money buys less unless you save in Bitcoin.
So Walker, if Bitcoin is not a technology, what is it then? You said it is so much more. Define that.
It's a money. It's a network. It is a system by which we can actually track the fruits of our labor, right? That we can actually save. Bitcoin is a savings technology and the most resilient network that we have ever seen. It's got the highest uptime of any technological network we've ever seen. And we happen to have, we've got uppercase B, we've got Bitcoin, the network. We've got lowercase b, Bitcoin, the money, right? That money is a store of value. It is a medium of exchange for some people. For myself, it is. I know for you guys, it is. And for some people, it's already a unit of account, right? I know you guys, how do you denominate how well you're doing? You're not measuring it in fiat, right? You're measuring it in Bitcoin, because that's the only measuring stick that makes sense. And so like Bitcoin as a fully fledged money, as a store of value, medium of exchange, and unit of account, that future is already here right now. It's just not evenly distributed. So when I say Bitcoin's not just a technology, of course it's not. It'd be like if refrigeration as a technology, which followed the typical S curve, right? If like refrigeration also somehow had like incorruptible, uncensorable, unconfiscatable sound money associated with the freon that goes into the fridge, right? I don't even know like how you draw, like that's the thing, you can't draw the comparison. Like applying the S curve to Bitcoin is like saying that Bitcoin is like a refrigerator. It's not. It's just purely not. So what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is money. Use it as money in whatever way that makes sense for you at wherever you are in that personal adoption of Bitcoin. For most, it starts with store of value. In the West, at least, in the global South, a lot of it starts with medium of exchange, but then it moves into medium of exchange more thoroughly, and then you denominate everything in Bitcoin because it's the only thing that makes sense.
I like it. So it's a money, it's a commodity, it's a medium of exchange, it's a technology,
it's a time travel machine. I'm just kidding.
And it's sexy. So what then? If the S curve wouldn't apply to it, what type of adoption metric would apply to this?
A rocket ship exploding into space.
You mean a rocket ship launching into space?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, hopefully not exploding.
Not the Voyager. That's not what I meant.
I think you mean Challenger.
Oh my
Yeah,
God!
wow.
Why you bring that's so dark? What about all of Elon's rockets that just
That hit the firmament.
Oh boy, here we go.
Guys, we're going to be right back after this small commercial break, and we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin podcast in just a bit. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high-performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at Hive Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank. And you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth. And join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io. Join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom. All right, everybody, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, thousands of people watching between YouTube, Rumble, and X, make sure to smash that like button. Opti's very hot. Very hot,
dude.
Opti.
I'm sweating in here. We need to figure out the AC in here, bro.
It's either on, but it sounds like a jet engine.
It's either freezing or it's off, and we are melting.
Yes, it is. It is South Florida after all. Anywho, we got a special guest and dear friend of the show, Walker America, on the show of the Silver Podcast. Walker, I'm so hyped to have you join us. You've been dropping bars, throughout the show. I've been absolutely loving your commentary. What's going on, man? How do you feel heading into 2026? Do you believe the cycles are over? Do you think we're heading into uncharted territory? You and Opti were.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, can we just bully Nico into being bullish?
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up if you didn't. Yeah, go ahead.
Opti. You and Opti were bullying me at the end of last year. You guys were saying like, look, Nico, you're wrong. You should be bullish. We're heading into a bull market in 26. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to end up at $1.5 million at the end of the year. All of this good stuff. Has any of that changed? We're 1 month into the year already. Time flies. So 11 months left to go. How are you feeling on Bitcoin at the moment?
I mean, I remain bullish. I think Bitcoin's just been in a bear market since it was created, invented, discovered, whatever you want to say. I think that what we're seeing, it looks like the Weimar Germany, the price of the German mark during Weimar denominated in gold, right? Or gold denominated in the mark, right? It looks zigzagging up and down because this goes back to the problem of measuring things in fiat. It's like, first of all, which fiat? Well, usually US dollars, right? But we mentioned earlier, if you measure it in Iranian rial, it's like Bitcoin has gone absolutely parabolic. If you measure it in Turkish lira, Bitcoin's been going parabolic and had omega candles for several years, right? If you measure it in Argentinian pesos or Venezuelan bolivars, whatever it might be, it's been going parabolic, right? So the fiat measuring stick is inherently flawed, and you got to pick which one you want to use. I can't even tell you what the exchange rate is in Canadian moose shekels these days, but I know it's it makes it look even more bullish, right? And one here is that I think for me, it's like the core thesis hasn't changed. I think it's really easy to get sucked into short-term price movements because we're all human, right? We can't help it. And you can't help but know that like you just did a smash buy or whatever, and then Bitcoin dumps a little bit. And you're like, well, I could have bought, this many more sats if I would have waited a little bit longer. And that is the right framing in terms of thinking about it in sats, thinking about the opportunity cost in sats versus thinking about it in dollars. Okay, you're on the right path there. But the problem is that we know that Bitcoin is not like a what's it going to do tomorrow, what's going to do next week, next month, next year thing. It's a what's it going to do 4, 8, 12, 20 years from now. That's what you really need to focus on. And yes, it does hurt sometimes when you see, you know, I mean, like, you know, just had my lovely wife say, you know, last night looked at the price of gold and she's like, oh man, guess we should have bought some gold. And then I had to have a stern talking to with her where it's, we don't say those words in this house, right? she apologized shortly after, but like, that's how I know that we're reaching a point where there's about to, I think, be a massive rotation. Now, I could be wrong, right? Maybe gold just keeps going up forever. Maybe gold miners don't massively increase their output to deal with this as they have every other time before. Maybe central banks don't manipulate the heck out of the gold price as they've done many, many, many times. Maybe JP Morgan Chase traders don't manipulate the price of gold as they've done and been fined for before. So this is not slander or libel or whichever one it is when you speak it. I can never remember. But the point is that like everybody right now seems to, like, the vibes have been bad for a while in Bitcoin, right? This whole past year, the vibes have been weird. And it's like they feel weird because people are unnecessarily bearish about this. Even you, Nico, this, you know, back to what Opti and I were saying, like, I was shocked when you got a little bit bearish. I was like, man, maybe I need to get a bit bearish. But then I remembered that you must have somehow been infected with a mind virus, something like that. There was something going on. You were being psyoped. And so I wasn't worried. And Opti and I are going to pie you in the face at some point when Bitcoin starts ripping again. We're
holding you to that.
We are holding you to it. I'm gonna fly down to your studio there. We're gonna do it live, do it in person. But at the end of the day, I think, and Opti, I'd love your take on this, but my thesis hasn't changed. My approach hasn't changed. It continues to be, you know, that old adage of, you know, be greedy when others are fearful. It's actually really good advice. And the last thing I'll say on this is that for me, it's like Bitcoin is going to show us what happens when that old paradox, right? The paradox of what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Well, we haven't really had a way to test that paradox before, right? But I think we do now with Bitcoin, because the unstoppable force is infinite fiat demand. And what is the immovable object that is meeting? Well, it's meeting the completely finite, absolutely scarce Bitcoin supply of 21 million. So what happens when that unstoppable force of infinite fiat demand meets the immovable object of absolute finite Bitcoin at 21 million? I don't know, but I think it's going to go up and to the right. And that's about as far as my technical analysis goes.
Could you play the pomp soundboard, please?
Rocket ship, get on board.
Let's get after it relentlessly today, guys.
No, I 100% agree, man. I think that once the market realizes Bitcoin's absolute scarcity, it's game over. Like, again, not to repeat myself, but that part where just Saylor alone is buying all of the supply that all of the Bitcoin miners are mining, I mean, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. And the longer Bitcoin consolidates around these prices, like the longer it goes sideways, the beach ball analogy is the best analogy for this. Eventually, this thing's just going to go to the upside. And what I don't hear a lot of people talk about enough in Bitcoin is that Bitcoin's success is binary. What does that mean? It literally goes to zero or it goes up. It cannot, and it does not stay the same. The halving ensures that. The miners would go out of business, so the price goes up. And Knut Svanholm's meme or equation, I think, is super fitting, right? It's infinity divided by 21 million. That's, you know, the simple equation. So I think as long as governments continue to print money, you know, Bitcoin's price, it's going to go up, right? It's simple maths. But another thing that I will say, Walker, I'll bring this up, and again, not to throw some bearish juice on this, because again, you've been hitting all the points. In gold terms, Bitcoin has still not made an all-time high, or barely made an all-time high.
Yeah, I was going to say, in gold terms, we are pretty much in a bear market since like 2022 or something like that, 2023, I think.
So, you know, in gold terms,
2024, sorry. Which
is why I've been making the case for the rebrand, right? I know that you gave, you know, your wife a talking, but the gold podcast sounds fantastic. You know, Simply Gold sounds fantastic. Think about it, bro. We can get Birch Gold and, you know, and all that stuff. I'm just kidding. It's all a joke. I'm joking, guys. You know, get a sense of humor. But in all seriousness,
dad jokes suck.
Hey man, I got two kids now. The jokes are just gonna get progressively worse. But
yeah, congrats, bro. I didn't get a chance to say it to you live on camera, man. So happy for you guys.
I appreciate it. Walker, so I want to get your take on that because Bitcoin has still not made an all-time high. And Opti, if you want to pull up the chart so we can, show a visual for the audience, Bitcoin has still not made an all-time high against gold since 2021, 2022. And this is the thing that Peter Schiff actually brought up to me when I saw him at the Bitcoin conference. We were talking about it. We were like, hey, like, why you keep taking this stance? And he's like, hey, Nico, you know what? You could say whatever you want, but gold hasn't made an all-time high against Bitcoin. So I want to get your take on that, man. Is that a temporary thing? What's going on? Is why is gold being perceived by the market as sound money where we all know that Bitcoin is the superior money?
It's a great question. I think there's a couple of parts to it. The first is that gold, like, what is the one thing that gold has that Bitcoin doesn't? Well, it's a 5,000-year history, right? 5,000-year plus history. Like, Bitcoin doesn't have that. It's still very young. So people know gold. They're comfortable with gold. The boomer class of the world that has the majority of the wealth, they are comfortable with gold. They've known it. They were alive when we still had a gold standard, right? Maybe they still think that we do in some ways. I don't know. But people know gold. It's the comfortable thing for them. It's predictable. It maintains its purchasing power. There's the old, like, what is it? Like the fine suit index, where it's like, if you look at the price of a fine suit from, 100 years ago, it was like an ounce of gold, like a nice tailored, custom made suit made just for you. And if you go to today, it's like the same price, right? It's like an ounce of gold, basically. It's basically gold has maintained its purchasing power over a very long period of time. And that's great. Gold is great at that. It has served as a really, really good money, as a check on government's mismanagement of fiat currencies. The problem is that gold failed as an ultimate, a backing of currency, right? It failed as a way to keep governments in check because gold is very inferior to Bitcoin when it comes to basically all of its other properties. On its scarcity side, right? Bitcoin is more scarce because it's absolutely finite. On it, the ability to actually transport it around, like, you can't do that. On auditability, well, it's really hard to audit gold, right? Like, do the central banks actually have gold in their vaults, or is it tungsten wrapped in some gold leafing, right? Does Fort Knox have any gold at all? We don't know. That narrative kind of went away pretty quickly, even though we were apparently going to be seeing inside Fort Knox. Wonder what Donald Trump saw when he looked under the curtain there. Who can say? But I'm guessing it wasn't a bunch of gold, because otherwise he would have been bragging about it. Okay. That said, again, I think gold is what people know. It's what they're comfortable with. You can't blame them for running to it in times of uncertainty because it's what they've always run to in times of uncertainty. The thing is, though, that is your opportunity. That information asymmetry, the fact that still most people are asleep at the wheel when it comes to Bitcoin, is your opportunity. You should look at this as a good thing. This means that the vast majority of people in the world are bidding up gold and freaking silver instead of Bitcoin, even though anyone who has spent any time studying this knows all the different ways in which Bitcoin is superior. So what does that mean for you? It means that you still have time. You still have time. You still have alpha there, right? In trader speak, I think they call it alpha, right? I don't know, but most people who talk about trading are generally betas, but that's, just a different story. The point here, it's a little alpha beta joke. The point here is that information asymmetry is your opportunity. That means you're not too late to Bitcoin. You are still early to Bitcoin because most people are still asleep at the wheel. So, like, take that opportunity, view that as a good thing. I think we're going to look back in a few short years, and certainly, there's about 10 years, 20 years, it's going to be really obvious. But even in just a few years, let's go to Kathy Wood's 2030 prediction. I think you're going to look back at, when we get to 2030, and you're going to say either one of two things. I am so glad I listened to Simply Bitcoin, and I was stacking Bitcoin as hard as I possibly could, creating value. Walker was absolutely right. Nico was a little too bearish. Opti and Walker pied Nico in the face multiple times, but then he came around and we forgive him. But you're gonna say, I'm so glad that I stacked while I could. I can't believe I got to buy Bitcoin under 100,000 infinitely printable US cuckbucks per dollar for so long. Or you're gonna say, dang, I guess I should have been buying Bitcoin instead of piling into gold and silver at the top. But we'll see. Or you're going to say, there's that old saying, like, some people make things happen, some people watch things happen, and some people, wonder what happened. Make something happen for yourself. Don't be one of the other two.
Amen to that. Walker, America in the house. Guys, Go check out the Bitcoin podcast. Is available on YouTube, Spotify, all the podcasting platforms. You can find them on X as well. Walker America at Walker America. Go check out the Bitcoin podcast. Walker, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, man. Always love your legendary rips. Appreciate you, bro.
Love coming on here, guys. Appreciate everything you do. And like, again, if people are sitting here listening to Simply Bitcoin, you are still early. You are still in the tiny, tiny minority of innovators who are actually paying attention right now. So like, give yourself a pat on the back. Take these times where everyone else is bearish as an opportunity. You know something that they haven't yet understood, and that is powerful.
Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Consider subscribing again on YouTube, on Rumble, on X. Love you guys. Go outside, touch some grass, get some sun, and we'll see you tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.